There seems to be a growing group of individuals who are currently working at a company who are thinking that maybe I should go out and start my own business. Maybe I'll be a consultant. Maybe I'll be a trainer. Maybe it's time to let my ideas flow into the marketplace and let me drive the business. Well, although a lot of people are doing it, I decided to reach out to someone who I know personally who started his own business about 4 years ago, pre COVID. And I wanted to have that conversation with him to provide value for you who are thinking about making this change in your life. You're taking charge of this, but there are a few pitfalls, a few things you need to think about. And that's why I reached out to George Nenni. He is the CEO of Generations Digital. It's an agency that helps automotive dealers with their data, understanding their marketing, as well as he's a two-time author. He is a speaker. He is a consultant, a trainer, really all around wonderful human being. And I sat him down and asked him a few questions about how did he start? Why did he start? What were the struggles? And what would he recommend others who are thinking about doing this? What he would recommend to them to prepare them to make sure they are setting off on the right goal, not discouraging anyone, but to say, if you're going to go down this road, what do you think you should be focusing on? And that's what we talked about in this episode of You're in Charge, Conversations That Spark Change with George Nenni. So let's dive in to hear what he has to say about making the jump into running your own business. All right. So, George, thanks for joining me. What I wanted to pick your brain about today, and I think it's a very important topic, due to the last year of COVID, a lot of people either being furloughed or even for their own mind, changing jobs. This slowdown allowed people to reflect on where they are on their career, what they're trying to accomplish. You did that a few years ago. You left, you were with a company for a very long time and you started on your own journey. So for those people that are thinking about it, be it they're working in a business and saying, I'm going to go out and be a consultant, or I'm going to build my own business. Walk me through one, your thought process, and also some tactical things that you would be recommending to someone who's going to go down this journey.
Sure. Yep. Thanks for having me, and glad to share that thought process and journey. And it will be 4 years in August, so next month will be 4 years since I left Dominion, where I had been for almost 25 years, so 24 and change. Some of that was with a family business, the business I came into automotive with, the first 9 or so, and then the rest was after we were acquired, and so got lots of skills and really would never trade that for anything. I mean,
Right.
I learned so much, but so I thought to myself when I left, I was going to start. I knew I wanted to start some sort of automotive digital marketing business, either offering some combination of software or consulting, and so you spend some time kind of figuring that out. And I did take a good 4 weeks after I left Dominion to just do a lot of projects around the house, just kind of free thinking, had a lot of conversations with friends. And that was probably the first thing that I did, was really just reached out to a lot of folks I knew in automotive and all those connections. Of course, on LinkedIn, I made sure that I was extremely updated there and had a very robust listing and very networked, and made sure that group knew that I was in the market or looking. And I entertained a few opportunities because people reached out and said, "Oh my,
Sure.
how about come to work for us?" And so, and the conversations I was having with my wife was, I'm going to evaluate those, and if one of them looks incredibly, like a great opportunity, then I'll do that. But otherwise, full steam ahead on starting this business, Generations Digital. And I also gave her a time frame and said, look, if I'm not earning X amount of dollars by the middle of the summer, let's say 2018,
Right.
then I'll cut bait and I'll for sure go get a job, if I am starting it on my own. So entertained a lot of different great opportunities, met a lot of great folks, and decided, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and start this. And then so once that really started, probably October 2017, went full steam ahead with that goal of saying I got to earn this much money by midsummer.
Okay. So there's a couple things that I want to make sure I sometimes stop the conversation, make sure that the listeners get a few things because there's a couple things to unpack. So when you talk to, a circle of friends and reached out and you let people know that, you're leaving, of course, there is going to be people, especially for someone of your caliber. And that's something for all of you to understand, is that when you let people know that you're moving on from a company, there will be interest in saying, hey, would you like to come work for me? So those are two options. But when you are having those conversations, were the conversations with that circle of friends to say, one, am I crazy to do this? Two, were you looking for advice? Or were you also looking at feedback to say, what do you think I'm good at that I should be doubling down on a business? What were those conversations?
For me, they were really twofold. One, do you know of opportunities, or do you know of potential fits or any recommendations? Just direct channels to say,
Sure.
are there any opportunities I should pay attention to? And then two, a completely different. I wasn't at that point like, what color is your parachute? Trying to figure out what I needed to do. I knew
Hmm.
I had a good idea of what I wanted to do if I was going to go on my own. And so when those calls were very intentional, where I just said, "Hey, here's what I think I want to do. Here's my model I'd like to put together." Even so much so as like, here would be my monthly deliverables, and here would be my monthly rate. What do you think? And I
Right.
tell you, it was amazing, just the amount of help from people that I reached out to that likely I was probably going to sort of compete with them. I mean, there's so many dealers and so much opportunity. That wasn't the fear. They were longtime colleagues and friends, and they really just opened their arms to me. David Kane was the first one I actually made a phone call to. He gave me a couple books to read and some great recommendations, and that was like that was for me probably the big kind of launching of the rocket of starting the business.
Well, see, that's really great for everyone to listen to, because don't be afraid about competition. You'll find the right folks, because there are people that have an abundance mentality. Theoretically, people could say that your company and my company theoretically compete in certain areas, but yet neither of us look that way. There's enough for everyone. But I think
Mhm.
the valuable piece of the conversation is being prepared. So for anyone who is thinking about this, it's easy to just say, I'm good at what I do in the structure that I'm currently in. I think that's a big mistake that people make. I'm look at the results I'm getting here. You're not thinking of all the infrastructure that's supporting your success, and now you're going to go off. But if you are going to go off, really think about what can you deliver on your own, or if you're partnering with someone, what are the deliverables? Do your research on the rate, and then go present it to someone who will give you that honest feedback and help you, because just because you think it's good, it may not work in the market. So how did you frame it, right? So now we have this idea. So someone's sitting there going, I have a great idea. I know what I want to do. I have the rates. I have this. How did you search out to start this growing this business, to start generating revenue? How did that work?
Yep. So literally, I started with I'm a marketing major, and I really think a lot about marketing strategy when I think about businesses. And so I mapped it out in a PowerPoint. I mapped out, Glenn Pasch, Brian Pasch, Gary May, David Kane, every consultant that, Steve Stauning. I mapped. Everybody got one slide, and I just sort of said, what do they do? How do they position themselves? Are they CRM, BDC? Digital consultant, best I can
Right.
find out, what do they charge, what are their deliverables, and then try to look for an opportunity to say, what is an unserved, where are there less folks, what am I good at, and then kind of lined up that strategy. And then I really took a Word doc and created a little template with some corporate colors I thought I might do. And then I started with the old, in high school, I hated outlines. I never wrote my outline. I always just wrote the paper. But I remember how to do them. They forced me how to do them. The nuns in high school, forced me to do outlines. And now I always do an outline. So if I do a presentation at Digital Dealer, it starts with an outline. My framework for what my deliverables would be to the dealer was that outline, right? So here will be the big blocks of information I'll share with them and help them with each month.
So I like that idea. And so for those of you listening, understand what George just said. It is taking your idea, but now we have to map out. And what it sounds like you're doing is you're also, you're building the deliverables. You're finding a niche that maybe is underserved, or that you feel that you can just, so don't make the mistake, those of you listening, if you think that your skill set does translate well into an area. Just because there's other people in that field, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be in that field. The key is going to be, and this is the next question for you, George, is it's telling the story of your difference. Because again, once it's easy for people to lop everybody into buckets, right? You're a marketer, you're a sales trainer, you're a traditional media company, all of these, and it's easy for us to bucket. So once you got this niche, what were your next step? How did you build
Sure.
the story? The outline's great, but then how do we story tell against that so that when you're in front of someone and they say, well, tell me what you do, how do you work that out in a way that makes it easy for people to understand what you're delivering?
Sure. Full transparency, the person who really blazed that trail was, your brother Brian. And so honestly, I had been a close follower of Brian and friend since 2011,
Mm-hmm.
and really had, really liked his talk track, didn't try to, lift it completely, but honestly, Brian blazed a trail, that I certainly followed in terms of helping to around accountability and inspecting campaigns. And of course, one of my first things I did was, attend his training down in Palm Beach when he first moved there in early 2018, and so that was you have to give credit there. That was a big inspiration for what I did. But literally, then to tell that story, I took that outline and then started putting that into blocks of saying, okay, so every month we will talk about at a high level your traffic, your conversions, your third party classifieds, your OTT, all your different digital marketing investments, and then we will. I always like to go broad to specific, so we will talk about traffic and conversions, and we'll drive into each channel: organic search, paid search, display, third parties, and then dive even deeper. So keywords,
Right.
campaigns, and really, and then by the end of it, and hopefully get through that in an hour and a half with a dealer each month, but give them a deep dive, unlike any agency experience. And from someone who doesn't accept, I don't get commissions or spiffs or reseller fees, so I don't, I recommend products that I've seen work well, but I'm the agnostic, reporter of that data, and helping dealers to make those decisions. So
See, so that to me, so folks, so for George, and we explained what George does in the beginning of the episode, but understand your niche is you are helping them understand versus I'm providing you with that service, so to speak. You're not running
mhm.
their paid ads, you're not running, you're not necessarily doing the marketing. You definitely can help them in certain aspects, but what you're basically coming to them, which is a completely different, notice where this is in marketing. It's sort of a niche to say, I'm going to be your eyes and ears, or I'm going to be your virtual marketing person that maybe you don't have the revenue for, or you don't have that person inside your business that can translate the data for you in a way that you understand so that you can use the data to take action. You're going to be that person every single month because you also don't have any skin in the game to validate, hey, no, but my marketing's working. Look, like other vendors may, you're saying, yeah, this does, or no, this doesn't, or let's get them
Mhm.
on the phone. We have to ask questions. Again, building a business where there is a need. And I think that's something for all of you who are thinking about going out there. Just because you're doing well in your current position doesn't mean you may not be able to support a business out there, just because you really have to laser focus in on that need. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about just broadly. And again, this is, I know George works in automotive. I do. I work with other, and you do as well, non-automotive. So just let's take a step back for bigger business. Right now, there's so many different places that people can advertise. They have to worry about more and more fragmented areas for audiences. There are still people that are reading the newspapers and yet, or watching, TV, regular TV or cable TV. But then you have other people, as our children, you know, they don't watch it. Everything's on their phone, everything's mobile, everything has to be convenient on demand. So where do you, in your now almost 4 years of research and how it's evolved, where are you seeing the biggest disconnects or waste happening with marketing budgets for businesses today?
The biggest waste, maybe two ways. The wasted dollars out the door, are always, I think, paid search if you're running those kind of campaigns, just because it's so difficult to always judge the intent of the searcher. And so
Mm-hmm.
some categories are a layup; they work extremely well, and paid search is good at. And 80% of the rest, they're either fair at or very poor at. And then the other waste, I think, for most, people, from a business marketing perspective, especially local marketing, would be Google My Business. Just ignoring it or not taking advantage of the opportunities. That's just a wasted opportunity of just a little bit of time that could be spent that could deliver huge results, I think.
So that's great. So I want to talk because that actually is a phenomenal answer because it covers both. It's a waste in what you're spending if you're not monitoring it well or understanding what you can and cannot track. I think a lot of digital marketing, when it all started, everybody, the value add or how it was sold to everyone is you can track everything, right? So
Mhm.
it pivoted against TV or newspaper or radio saying, well, how can you really prove that helped you sell X? And but now I can show you where, to your point, a lot of consumer behavior on the internet and using their phone for convenience, we may not understand. So it's still, paid search may work in totality to a point. There's definitely waste, but this idea of every campaign is going to generate a throughput line that you can see doesn't matter. Just because I use a different campaign to get access to buy something in a different funnel or channel from you, I still bought something from you. But again, I think it's one, understanding the marketing, two, it's paying attention to the marketing and testing. But I agree with you, a lot of waste. And then, as you said, on the flip side, you have, I'm not paying attention to something, and that's a cost. So you wrote a book recently, which I loved, on Google My Business. And so again, for those of
Thank
you,
you.
all business owners should know what Google My Business is. If you don't, go get George's book. It'll be linked in the show notes. So give me a few basics, right, that people are missing for any business with their Google My Business. What are things, when you say they're not paying attention, what do you mean specifically?
Yeah, so I would say it's related to, one, of course, at the very minimum, claiming the listing and taking a look at it. Um, it's most of what can be accomplished is on the homepage, and Google will step you through it. So they're very good about saying, "Hey, here's a gap, here's a content gap, and
Mm-hmm.
click here to fill the gap." Maybe you're missing a description, maybe you're missing, photos or images or a logo, and so you can fill in those blanks. And then ultimately, it's putting that content up there, and really easy content like owner photos of all things are a strong signal in your Google My Business listing in terms of ranking. Search Engine Land found in a study in early 2020 that once you get to 100 owner photos, you get more than your fair share of searches, views, and action. So crazy as it sounds, owner photos, right? So upload that content. Google loves that stuff. And then reviews, and hopefully as many 5-star reviews as we can. And where we can, encourage the customer to say, hey, the very best reviews, if you're wondering about what to write on, the very best reviews include the make, model car you bought, the service you got from our service department, maybe who you dealt with, and if you liked it, please share what you liked about our service. Those kind of keywords, those positive accolades, or any product descriptions, brake repair, oil change, tires, are highly indexed in local search. And so what a great thing. Now suddenly local SEO is something every dealer can do themselves, just with a little bit of legwork and the right playbook.
And so again, I want to make sure, for those of you who are going, but I don't own a dealership, this doesn't matter. The reviews, understand what George just said. When you're asking for a review, yes, I want, salesperson's name or the cut person, but what did they buy from you? Make sure they mention that and about your service. So I don't care if it's food, I don't care
Sure.
if it's clothing, I don't care if it's computers, I don't care if it's books. The mere fact that you're getting more detail in the reviews versus just saying, good job, had a great time. Yes, you'll still get those, but if I can get more of those, it's really important. So do you think that business owners, and again, every business owner out there, should they look at their Google My Business as a mini website?
I think it really depends on the business. I mean, if I'm a restaurant, or maybe a hotel, but certainly a restaurant, my Google My Business is definitely a mini website, and it may be the ultimate starting and stopping destination for someone who wants to see my menu and decide if they want to come in this evening. If I'm a car dealer, no, because ultimately I need them to go to my site for a number of reasons. One, I want to, of course, selfishly pixel them and be able to retarget them and follow them around. But more importantly, bring them into my customer experience, my digital
Right.
retailing experience, chat, text, all those things that I know can enhance that experience. And now you can have inventory on your Google My Business, which I think is a super cool thing, and we encourage dealers to do, but gets very low activity just because the consumer doesn't want to shop and spend a lot of time on a little Google My Business channel.
Right.
Maybe more deeply go in and visit the store.
So talk to me about the birth of your product, your Chrome extension, your iSpy. Walk people
Sure.
through that, because one, it's a free to any business, and I think for every business out there who is doing marketing, to be able to leverage what George's technology has built, and again, free, free
Yep.
is good. Walk me through where it came from, and tell the audience what it does and why it would be important, not just for a dealer, but as you said, someone who's a restaurant, someone who's selling retail, someone who is in the hospitality business, how to leverage your tool to sort of take a peek at what your competitors are doing.
Sure, sure. And before, just a preamble about how I came about developing the GMB Spy Chrome extension. You know, um, when I first started the business, another conversation with my wife was, at the very least, I want to go out and get couple dozen customers, car dealer customers,
Mhm.
and consult with them and get to know them and keep my eyes and ears very open and look for opportunities. Maybe it's a product, maybe it's online training, maybe it's a book. And so, much of what I've done, honestly, I've stumbled into through either hearing a need from a customer or something I discovered on my own. I decided to experiment. Don't be afraid to put 10 bets on the table, knowing that two or three of those won't work. One of my best bosses ever, told me that if you're not failing, you're not trying enough things. Don't fail at everything, of course. Be good at your
Right.
bets. Be smart about it, but experiment. And we all talk about fail fast. So when things aren't working, don't lose sleep over it. You spend a little money and move on. And so that was one where I read an article. I read an article about the fact that you could now look in the HTML and you could find the Google My Business categories. That was January or early 2020. And so I went through that exercise and it was really cool. So you could go through and look at the HTML. And if you look for a double tilde, look for the second double tilde. And after that, you might see, you'll see these categories listed
Right.
out. And it was really cumbersome. And I thought to myself, that's a perfect application for a Chrome extension, since extensions allow you to visit websites and then stop. Okay, now fire this thing and analyze. And so that's what we did. So the GMB Spy Chrome extension goes and sniffs other businesses or your own business, any Google My Business listing, either in Maps or in search, and will tell you the categories. You can have up to 10 categories, one primary and then 9 secondary categories. And those are very big influencers also in terms of your ranking in local search for your
Sure.
Google My Business listing.
So for dealers, automotive dealers, if you're not using it, you should, because it has helped. You can see where other people are lacking, and you can go then make sure you're taking business because they're sleeping, as George said. Remember earlier, if you're not paying attention to something, you could be missing it. But also I did this for a local restaurant who I go to, because they did catering, but they didn't have catering as a category. And I showed them that. And they said, well, how did you know I didn't have it? I said, well, here's this tool. They thought the tool was phenomenal. And they were going, oh, I can now go see what my competitors are doing and or listing, or come up with something, just so when someone's looking for catering or looking for a product or a service that you do, but you're not advertising it, right? Now I can start showing up in search. Now you're basically telling Google in a very simple way, I would like you to show my business listing for this if the person is close to me. Again, it is also, when you come up in search in those 3 or for listings, a lot of it is where that person is physically located. But the mere fact that you will come up for those searches, that's important. And having the ability really quickly to just know I'm lacking,
Yep.
or I'm doing well, or, ooh, someone's doing something. Let me see. Oh, that's a good way that I could advertise myself. But what I liked about what you said, and for all of you listening, again, the conversation we started talking about, for those of you that are thinking, I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to be a consultant, or I'm going to start my own business, or even if you're internally saying, I want to lead this project, it's really about mapping it out. It's really about asking questions. It's reaching out to your network to say, what do you think? But what George said, and I don't want it to just fly by and be missed, is make sure you have enough bets on the table. Try things, keep your ears open. When you see the need, take the step to try and research to say, well, could I solve this problem? I had a conversation the other day with someone, I think it was Duran Cage, and he said, we're not trying to solve everything, but the question is, what can I solve? What can I do right
Sure.
in this situation to move? So same thing here. What can I provide for my customers that's different? Or what ability? And so when you're taking charge, it's really about mapping things out, it's asking for help, and then it's really taking action on your plan to make sure you're executing. Do you think that's a clear description of sort of your journey?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's mapping it out. It's knowing what you want to do. It's also, if you're starting your own business, it's a lot of shoe leather that it's not the glamorous part people talk about.
Right.
Just a quick story. When I started off, and as I said, in November 2017, I started going hard and heavy. I got a HubSpot free CRM login. I got
Right.
Quicken and QuickBooks set up for my accounting. I took that HubSpot CRM and I grabbed lists of dealers in the Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Louisville, Lexington area where I live, where there's tons of dealers. I sat in my basement and I made phone call after phone call for 2 months solid. One with a goal of getting 6 dealers. If I get 6 dealers on the basic concept, I could go out there and do proof of concept, get feedback from them, and then refine it. I left one, and I started off my career doing inside sales, and it's just a great way to start your career experience wise. And so I was good at taking, I didn't take the rejection personally. I just knew it was a
Right.
numbers game. I just had to reach out to a certain number of dealers. Every 10 days, I'd leave a dealer a nice courteous voicemail, ask them to return the call. One Buick GMC dealer, I left her 18 voicemails over like a 2-month period, and she finally called me back and said, "You must have something extremely important to share with me because and so I said, I just need 15 minutes in front of you, and she's been a loyal customer ever since. So those kind of things feel good, but it's not going to be easy, right? It's going to be a ton of hard work. I had tons of automotive contacts and experience, but I still didn't have any customers, right? You got to go get customers, you got to bill them, you got to get an attorney to get some contracts for you and get your legal entity set up. I mean, all those kind of shoe leather things I got done in 2 or 3 months real fast, and then said, okay, now let's go and let's try to scale what we're doing.
And what I love about that is, and maybe because you're older and you've been through, as you said, I worked for 20 plus years at a company, and you see structure. The mistake a lot of individuals make is they have 1 or 2 people that are interested in their product, or they say, oh, I definitely hire you. And that's that initial, I call it the sugar high. And you say, well, I have those 2 people and boy, they love me. But I think to your point is, part of your brain when you're a business owner, and especially when you're a one man, one woman show in the beginning, half your time is delivering what you have to for your current clients, and half of it is going out and where is the next client? Because eventually, even if they stay,
Mhm.
eventually they stop. But more importantly, you have to fill that bandwidth, but you constantly have to fill in the pipeline. What I liked about that, also with your story about the 18 phone calls, is I had a dealer tell me early on, if you don't call me 6 or 7 times, then you don't believe enough in your product. You don't
Mhm.
believe in it. You're not as excited about it. So then why should I be excited about this? And it is a lot of hard work. It is a lot of knocking on doors. And even if you've been in business, to your point, people knew who you were, but there's a difference. Now they're looking at you in a different light than where they knew you before. And it's a disconnect of, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll give you a chance or maybe I won't. And it's really not easy. I think entrepreneurship right now seems to be very glamorous and cool and it's fun, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So let me ask you this. 4 years in, what's one of the biggest lessons that you wish you knew early on than where you are right now? Like if you could say, man, if I started something brand new today, I'd do this differently. What would that be?
That's a tough one. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes, but what would I do differently? I might maybe start the marketing, the marketing to dealer associations earlier. Maybe start doing more video earlier.
Right.
I'm just trying to amp up my video game the last 6 months or so. I don't know. I've been really happy with the journey. Of course, maybe I would have tried to publish earlier, or
Mhm.
maybe partner with some folks. But it's just, I love what I do. I am as happy in career as I've ever been. I should have done it probably 10 years ago. That's my only regret, was probably not doing
Right.
it
Maybe he's
sooner.
not starting sooner. Right. Yeah.
Not sooner, but yeah, it's I tell you what, it changes your perspective entirely. I mean, when I would wake up in those first 4 to 6 months where I was trying to get those initial customers, I would spring out of bed and grab my phone and literally just looking for opportunity on the phone. LinkedIn, email, inbox, even in spam, just scouring like, did anybody email me back? Is anybody, anything hustling, anything going, oh, there's something, and so you just take those little wins, you just keep building upon them. And as you said, anytime you have any spare time, you are marketing or selling, and you got to set goals. How many calls am I going to make a day? How many LinkedIn posts am I going to make each week? Kind of come up with some kind of content strategy around that. I mean, it's just, but you're right. When you're a one man person, you're doing a lot. But I love that part also. One very satisfying part is that there was no meetings, no committees, no, if I had an idea and I wanted to do something, I just did it. I love that part of it because I'm probably too heavy leaning on the execution side, that I just love to get stuff done.
No, and I think that's a great lesson. I had an interview with Erica Tiffany, and she is, just was 40 under 40, very successful. She's part of WOCAN, the Woman of Color Automotive Network, one of the
Mhm.
founders. She made an interesting point saying, people want to hire her. It's like, where can I find more Erica Tiffany? She goes, well, this has taken 20 years to build to this person. The question is, would you have hired me 20 years ago? Would you have taken a chance on that person? Right. So same thing for you. People could look and say, oh, George, I'll take your company. And you're going, yeah, but this is 4 years. Wait till 10 years. But to your point is, it's an evolution. And yeah, you look back. And the reason why I asked you the question is a lot of times what I wanted people to understand is that there really is no right answer. The answer is it's the journey. Yeah, I could have marketed earlier, but that's looking at where you are now. At that time, what would you have marketed differently? Maybe you would have, as you said, done video, but your brain wasn't ready for it. And the reason why I wanted to point that out was for people is we have a tendency to judge ourselves negatively a lot and say, oh, if only woulda, shoulda, could have, versus, well, what did you do today? And more importantly, what are you doing tomorrow? Like, forget it. You can't fix what you did before. The only thing you can do is saying, what are we doing today? And I really liked the micro goals that you were setting. Again, it's easy to get swamped in all of the marketing and all the things that you have to do versus saying, okay, first thing in the morning, I do this, then I do this and do this. And on Mondays, I do this. And Wednesdays, I do this. Having that plan allows you to build your own structure that a lot of times that previous company gave you. Even if
Right.
you help build it, there was an expectation. I need to be there at 9 o'clock, wherever it is. And, we have meetings at this time. And then at this time we have this. And on Fridays we do this. There was a structure. The key is for everyone building your own business, is finding a way to build that structure for yourself so that you're comforted in the structure, not overwhelmed by all the tasks that you need to do.
Right, right, correct. Steve White from Clairvoy had a great quote that he gave me, a few months into starting the business, and I was talking to, he said, "How's things going?" I said, just lots of hours, working tons, but I love the lifestyle. He's like, "Yeah, it's a great lifestyle. You get to pick, you're working for yourself. You get to pick which 80 hours of the week you work." Like, yep, that's right. Very flexible.
But it's so talk to me about that because you've mentioned it a few times in passing. This idea of you're controlling your own destiny. For some people, that's scary. For you, it seems very liberating. Um, Talk to me about that. Is it the excitement of newness? Is it the hunger to prove to yourself and to others that I can do this? Is it just I need a change? So talk to me about that because you, as you said, you say I get out of bed and I love this and it's exciting. But 4 years in, some people may say, well, that sounds great for the first couple months where you're like, oh, this is new and exciting. How do you keep that buzz going?
Yeah, I just, my personality is I just can't sit still. I mean, I'm in, in the evenings, I'm doing projects or what. I sit around sometimes, but for me, it feeds the need to produce things and feel like I'm accomplished. I'm getting things
Right.
done. So is that part of it is, and I probably, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I like my ideas, and so I want to execute it. So I don't want to. I always would get, I not always, but I would get frustrated often if I had a great idea that I knew would work well, and it died in committee, in the big company. I'm like, I know that would work. And so now I get to either find out, nope, you were wrong, George, or that was a
Right.
good one, go do another one. And when I have successes like that, it just feeds me to say, I'm on to something, keep doing it. So
Yeah, I like
builds
that. Yeah,
excitement.
yeah. My wife always said that to me. She said, you've always worked for small companies. You either worked with family or you worked in smaller companies where there wasn't a lot of politics. You would basically have two or three people in a room and say, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go do it.
Mhm.
Versus committees and planning and meetings and all of that stress. And I said, I don't understand it. I've been seated in those conference rooms consulting for other companies and it's people would walk out saying that was a great meeting and I'm scratching my head going, We didn't decide on anything or nothing got accomplished," or, well, now we're going to have another meeting about that. And I kept saying, well, how do we actually ever get anything done? And maybe that's just, as you said, not ever having that frustration
Mhm.
of that. But let me ask you, one other thing, and we touched on this early: getting your spouse, partner, whoever, to buy in and understand. What I liked about it, and again, just to not, I don't want it to get skimmed over, is you had a conversation where you said, this is what we're doing. She obviously said, great, I believe in you, let's roll. But you also had an off ramp, so to speak, to say,
Mhm.
here's where I think, give me 9 months. And if we're not doing this by then, I'll do that. How important is it to have that support of your spouse or partner when you're jumping off in this almost like jumping into the deep end of a new idea?
Yeah, I think you have to have it, and it really, it began with saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or what, and as I said, putting a time bound goal out there and saying if it doesn't happen by this date, then we cut bait. But also, my wife is a motivator. She doesn't like folks sitting around as well, and so not that she was chasing after me, but maybe a little bit, or maybe I'd get an inkling like, hey, how many dealers are we up to? How's those sales calls going, or whatever it was, or if I came back from a trade show, did you get any customers? And so
Right.
knowing that also, I mean, I'm accountable to her. It's a shared household, and all the things we're doing, successes or failure. So yeah, I think you have to have it.
Yeah, that topic came up. I'd never heard about this, and I thought it was just one of those moments where you go, "Wow, that is so smart." It is a dealership when they're hiring a manager in. Part of the interview process is talking to their spouse, right? Their
Hmm.
partner, to understand the demands of the job. And are you on board with the fact that they may have to work certain hours, or I may need them extra, or they're going to be away for XYZ, to get that buy-in. And I thought that was so smart to have that interview of the spouse, because there is a lot of commitment. To your point is, when you're working nights or traveling or I'm sorry, I have to leave dinner for a minute, with friends because a client has an issue. It's understandable if everybody is bought into the end goal. You're hoping that it still gets under control. But at the end of the day, we're in the client business. And when you're serving clients and you're dealing with clients, you have to be available to them within a framework. But I agree with you. I think it's so important to have that support to understand, but also have someone who, one, will listen, give you feedback, and also give you the kick in the ass that we all need every once in a while, to say, well, wait a minute, why isn't this working? I think that's very important as well. So as we're wrapping up, I want you to put your hat on, sort of like if you were talking to, let's say, high school seniors or people in college and they're just ready to get out. As I said, there's a lot of people out there watching on the internet, and I could make money flipping things and selling things, or I could start my own business. And that was a conversation with a gentleman on the podcast who said Gen Z thinks they have the ability of, if I don't want to work for you, I'll go start my own business, like it's nothing. So if you were talking to that group of people, the college seniors who are going out, or high school seniors who are not going to college right now, and they're thinking about starting a business, what would be three things that they really need to look in the mirror to think about, before doing it? Not to discourage them completely, but like, here's what you need to think about as you're going down the road. What would three, sort of, ideas or things you would recommend them doing?
Yeah, so I would say first would be stay at your current role and make sure that you spend any of your spare hours in the evenings, weekends, building your plan, do as much as you can before you decide that you're going to give your notice and leave, to keep your cash flow high. And kind of related to that one is just, if you're currently living beyond your means, this might be a challenge for you, right? You gotta, especially when you're young in life and really all the time, live within or hopefully beneath your means. Be a good saver, be a good investor, have lots of cash, have at least 6 months, hopefully 12 months of living expenses in cash. And drive. This is bad for the car business, but drive your cars for a long time till the wheels fall off. Buy expensive houses and cheap cars, I guess, is the advice I got years ago. But anyway, so that's a big one. Just make sure you've got the cash to do it, and try to do as much as you can up front before you leave your job, so that at the moment that you leave, you're ready to, as I said, start making those sales calls and start marketing your business. The second would be a knowledge junkie. Just be obsessed with learning. Be smarter than the people you work with or your boss or whatever it is around your given area. And that doesn't come naturally. I mean, if it doesn't come naturally to you and you don't have that quest, that may be a challenge. But you gotta just have a quest
Mhm.
for it, especially if you're going to be in digital, because it's always changing. And then third, I would just say, just out execute everyone. Just be willing to just put in the shoe leather, the work, the extra hours, balancing your family and work life. But when you're at work, I mean, just outwork everyone there, and just be willing to take assignments people aren't willing to do. Um, from a sales perspective, of course, don't be discouraged by the word no. If you know that every 10 no's you get a yes, I mean, just it's a numbers game. Just power through it, and just build and market your business. So, knowledge, execution, and keep expenses low. Maybe might be three big ones.
No, I think that's great. And again, even for students, who are in school, stay living at your parents' house if they'll let you, and really
Mhm.
to keep those expenses down. And, maybe your parents will let you just, this is your job, is building your job, or you have a job. To what George was saying, do your job, whatever it is, do it excellently, save that money, but any free moment you have, work this out. I've seen too many people just leave.
Mhm.
The other one is, don't talk about your idea yet. I've had a few people who are talking about, oh, I'm going to go start this, and then their current job hears about it and they give them the boot, and now you've lost that leverage. So again, to George's point, I love all of those. The outwork it, absolutely. Work is good. Putting in the effort, doing it smart, asking to what George was saying, knowledge is two things. One is learning about it from a skill base, but talking to people who did it before, getting their buy-in. As George said, I showed my plan to people. I talked to people. I did my research to get that feedback. No one's going to survive on their own, meaning that everybody needs help, especially when you're there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Make sure that you have your plan. And I love that whole thing about working hard. So I think that's a great way where we'll just wrap this up. But at the end of every episode, we definitely have a few questions that we ask, just random fun questions that have nothing to do with anything. So don't overthink them. And so here's your first one. What is your favorite? Now, I know you're a healthy guy. I've known you for a long time, but what's your favorite cheat meal? Like, what's the thing that you're going, oh, that's gotta have some of that.
Bratwurst. Had them last night. Grilled bratwurst in the summer. Just
any particular brand that is
I mean, Johnsonville. Johnsonville beer brats.
Okay. There you go.
Lots of onions and hot mustard.
Oh, hot mustard. I like that as well. Okay. What was your favorite cartoon as a child?
Bugs Bunny.
Love Bugs Bunny.
Them. There's so many of them, and just hours and hours.
What's a movie or TV show that when you run across it on TV, you stop and you watch it?
I have to say two of my more recent favorites. I don't know, and they're not new, but The Judge, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall, one of my favorite actors, and just kind of a sleeper movie, just so good. And then Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, makes me laugh every single time. I've probably seen it 20 times.
That one makes me laugh too. The first time I saw it in the beginning, I wasn't quite sure, and then all of a sudden I got it, and it was a hysterical movie. Something that you're reading or listening to that you think others should, that you would recommend other people read or listen to?
Oh, goodness. So my reading has been down for a few months. I would say listening to would be Modern Day Car Sales every morning from 6:45 to 9, Monday through Saturday on Clubhouse, which is now open to all. You don't have to get a buddy to let you into Clubhouse. So, I mean, I find that, I mean, you're on there too, Glenn. I mean, it's a great way to just learn every morning. And here I thought I was maximizing multitasking on my iPad, CNBC, Twitter, exercising at the same time. And now I do Clubhouse. So I'm that much more efficient.
There you go. Okay. Is there a motto or some sort of, like a motto or a quote that you find like this means a lot to me? This is the way I move through the world.
I don't know. I don't know if I have any mottos, but just the last couple of years I've had, lost some good friends and just some people on time, and just the importance of life and just relationships and just the shortness, the brevity of life. And, I'm 56, you kind of, I don't mean to sound morbid, but your own mortality, just like, you get one at bat, you get one life, you got to just go at it and execute and enjoy yourself as much as possible. Just cherish the relationships you have. You never know when those, will be temporarily over. And so it's, anyway, just embracing life and just trying to live it to the fullest.
I love that. Okay. Two more. One is, if I now took all of your inner circle, the people who really know you, what's the one word they would use to describe you?
Obsessive, maybe. I don't know. Hyper. Or I think my wife says 2 speeds. Full speed and asleep on the couch. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. No, listen, I like that. I would probably, from knowing you, I understand what they say about obsessive. I think you've described yourself through this whole thing. It's the work hard, you're going to prove your idea is right or wrong. So that's a really good skill to have. Okay. So last question. We've talked about a lot in this: starting business, importance of spouse, working, planning. If there was one thing out of our whole discussion that you would hope the listeners took away, what would that one thing be?
Work hard.
There it is.
Just
love that. Love that. That's simple, folks. Like, seriously, that's about as simple as it is. Show up, work hard. Love that as well. Okay. So, George, listen, I've known you for a while and I really appreciate everything that you do. I think it is incredible, the success that you've been having. I think it's a great example of building a business the right way. I've never heard a bad thing about you in the industry from anyone. And in this industry, there's a lot of whispers and gossip. So that's incredibly admirable. I think it was last year you received the Lighthouse Award for people who are contributing to the automotive space. And so that, again, we appreciate and honor you there. So where can people find you, connect with you, reach out to you? We'll put your business here in the show notes and things like that. But where can they reach out if they want to connect and chat with you personally?
Yep. LinkedIn. George Nenni on LinkedIn, or connect with me on Facebook. You can just Google my name, and you can get the books and the websites and those sort of things. And my cell phone number is on my website, generationsdigital.com. But searching for my name is probably the fastest. But thank you so much as well. I appreciate you having me on. And as you know, I'm a big admirer of PCG, the organization, all they've done for automotive. You and Brian and Carrie and Denise, and just the entire group, a big anchor and inspiration for the automotive segment.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I appreciate everyone. So again, all of you who are listening and watching, again, I appreciate that you're here with me. Don't forget to subscribe and put your comments down below. Please share this out. There's a lot of people who could use the information that George just shared right here. Just share it out to them, be a blessing to them, help them out. You never know, by just one share of this podcast, how that could impact and help somebody create a successful business there as well. As always, we're here every single week. We push out episodes twice a week. Again, thank you so much for your attention. It means a lot that you're spending time with me. I know there's a lot of places for you to listen as well. But as we say at the end of every episode, you're in charge. But now George has given you a few more tools to help you become more successful. Thanks so much. See you next episode. George, look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Glenn.
Take care.